In this video, we're going to talk about follow-up email persuasion. I want to talk to you about building trust and actually getting prospects to buy more stuff from you over time. A lot of people dismiss the fact that people on your list are still potential buyers. We kind of just put them on this list and then we just keep focusing on getting more and more and more people on the list, and we forget about those people that subscribed but didn't buy. We sometimes even label them as freebie seekers or some other kind of negative name that pushes us away from working with them, when the reality is that just because they didn't buy something doesn't necessarily make them a freebie seeker. It's kind of like when they go into a department store. I'm sure you've even done this. You go into a department store, you're looking around, and the salesperson comes over to you and says, "Hey, can I help you with something?" You're saying, "No, just looking." Right? Does that mean that you're a freebie seeker? Does that mean that you're not going to buy something? Not at all. It just means you weren't ready yet. It just means something hasn't caught your eye yet. So it comes down to building trust and actually doing that eye-catching thing that's going to get them to buy more stuff. And when somebody enters your sales funnel or maybe gives you their name and email on a squeeze page, they've only demonstrated a small amount of trust. Now you've got to actually build up enough trust for them to buy from you, and that's done over time through a follow-up autoresponder sequence. Here's the important thing to keep in mind. Everybody loves to buy, but nobody likes to feel sold. This is a fact of life. I learned this in my door-to-door selling days, right? That was a tough job. And, you got to keep in mind that people love the way that they feel when they buy stuff. Let me tell you something. You could just look at this country's credit record. Like, people's credit is shot. People love to buy stuff. They max out their credit cards. They live on borrowed money. So they love to buy. But they hate feeling sold. Nobody likes to be pressured or feel like they have to buy something. Nobody wants to have to deal with that used car salesman type of person. The key to make money over time is to be the opposite of a salesman and actually provide unconditional value. Unconditional value that's actually going to relieve the prospect of apprehension. So when they get on your list, they might be afraid that they're going to get bombarded with offer after offer after offer. But when you become that guy that acts the opposite and just kind of gives them value and gives them congruent value, we're going to talk a little bit about congruency in a little bit here. But when you're that person that gives them value over time, they're going to get to know, like, and trust you. That's how you're going to build that relationship with them. Your message must be consistent with their needs. That's what we were talking about with congruency. It has to be consistent with their needs and their wants for you to become someone that they know, like, and trust. You can't just kind of blast people with stuff that has nothing to do with their interests or the reason that they opted in the first place. And I see a lot of marketers screw this up all the time. They're so excited that they just got a lead, they got a person on their list, and they look at that person as data. They don't consider that that's actually a human being. And if I opted in because I was interested in your golf product, then I expect to receive emails about golf. If you start sending me things about other sports, you're not being congruent, you're not being consistent with my needs and my wants. I'm going to feel like you're just treating me as a number, as a piece of data, as a piece of meat. I'm going to unsubscribe, I'm going to bounce, because you're not doing it right. Your message has to be consistent with their needs. This video is actually going to provide you some good practices to follow in order to get your prospects to open your emails, to read them, and to take action. There's actually a process, and there's a lot of do's and don'ts, and things change. Things change over time. The email services providers change their rules, and we've actually gone through a lot of changes in email marketing and affiliate marketing in the time that I've been, doing this. In the years, I've seen a lot of changes happen, and there's a lot happening now to try to keep marketing messages out of the inbox, right? So all of the email clients are actually doing things to segment marketing messages, and they've become really, really good at identifying things that in your email that kind of reveal to them that you're marketing or that you're trying to sell something, and they see it as giving their client, which is the actual the person that you're marketing to, they see it as giving them a bad user experience. So they try to put you into some filtered spam folder or something like that. So you've got to develop ways to get into the inbox, and that's where it all begins. So we're gonna talk about some good practices to make sure that not only you get into the inbox, but that your prospect opens, reads, and actually takes action. So let's talk about how to follow up with email, because we've already talked about, in other videos, we've talked about how you get them onto your list. We've already talked about, how you put them through a funnel and stuff. But sometimes you get that person that didn't take action or didn't take the full action that you wanted them to take. And the key is to follow up through an autoresponder sequence, right? So what we've got to do is establish a baseline of trust. Where are they in the sequence of things? Where are they in the investment, right? Have they invested anything at all, or have they only given us their name and their email? Or did they only give us their email? Have they, invested $1 or $100? We've actually got to determine that baseline, and then we've got to grow that trust by providing congruent value. I talked a little bit about congruency, and it's important that you provide congruent value on a regular basis. I've got to say it, in today's day and age, we are bombarded with emails, and you should not fall under the false pretense that you're the only marketer or you're the only person that they're subscribed to. Chances are they were shopping around looking for that thing when they opted into your list, and they're probably on 6 or 7 other similar lists. If you're not mailing them, somebody else is. So you've got to provide that congruent value on a regular basis, and that person's going to resonate with you depending on how congruent your content is. If you're sending them stuff that interests them, stuff that they need, then they're going to be more prone to open your next email. So do it on a regular basis and make sure that you're giving them a congruent material. You've got to maintain a consistent, predictable pattern of communication with your prospect. Email daily, email every other day. Whatever you do, make sure it's a predictable pattern of communication, and you should be mailing them often. Honestly, daily works best, but here's the thing that's also important. You should tell them to expect other emails from you too. You have to actually prepare. You have to preface your relationship. Let them know what to expect from you right in the beginning. Let them know, hey, look, I'm going to be giving you some really valuable tips and information on something that you love. I'm going to give you information that you need. I'm going to give you some things that the other guys aren't going to give you, and I'm going to give it to you daily. In addition to this daily stuff, every once in a while, you might get a special broadcast email that I do when I come across some sort of special or something that I feel is important enough to really notify you. So, this is in case you're going to be sending broadcast emails promoting other products, and they're already on your follow-up sequence. Maybe on a certain day they get 2 emails from you or 3 emails from you. You should preface that right in the beginning, and you should never be embarrassed or afraid to do that. Let me tell you something. For some reason, I don't know, and this is common in the newbies, the people that just kind of start out, they're afraid to mail. I actually had somebody say to me, oh my goodness, I would never mail something on a Sunday. Oh, but it's Sunday. Are you kidding me? So you get mad if somebody sends you mail? Oh yeah, and if I get too much mail on a certain day from someone. So let me ask you this. When you go to your mailbox, to your physical mailbox outside of your house, and you walk outside of your house, and if you get a stack of junk mail, do you get on the phone and start calling those people, those companies that send you that newspaper and the circular and all those ads and those coupons? Do you go and what do? You don't. You push it to the side. If it interests you, okay, I put it on. You make 2 piles, right? That's what you do. So this is a normal thing that people do in their lives, and the reality is that if you're not mailing them every day, somebody else is. And the sole purpose for putting someone on your email list is so that you can email them to turn them into money. There is no other reason to build an email unless you're some sort of a charity, and even then, it's to somewhere down the line get money from them, right? So again, you should mail them daily, in my opinion, and let them know that they should expect other emails from you as well. You got to be genuine. Be genuine and strategic. Don't think that you need to be something you're not in order to impress people. Transparency is the best attractor and connector. I've got to be honest, this is a big mistake that I made when I first started. I thought that I had to be that salesman. Hey, how you doing? This is Omar Martin, and I've got something really special for you. I thought I had to be that guy. And man, did that push people away. I was like the Billy Mays of internet marketing, and it was like, it was comical. I look back at some of those early videos of me, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I was able to build a business. Like, I can't believe anybody bought anything from me. But the key that I've really found is being yourself, being genuine. And the reason I say this when it comes to email and follow-up email is because the way that you write and the things that you're saying in email conveys a tone. It does communicate in a certain way. And people can tell when you're being genuine and when you're not. It's important that you're genuine and that you're actually strategic. Every single thing that you're sending, that you're mailing, should have a strategy behind it. There should be a reason that you're saying what you're saying in email 1. There should be a reason that you're saying what you're saying in email 2. There should be a natural order of things. One email builds on the other email. Okay, so these things are very, very important. Be transparent, and this is the kind of thing that's going to attract people to you. This is what the kind of thing that's going to keep people opening your emails and keep them on your list until they are ready to buy, until you have built enough trust with them. Now, here's something that you might have heard this word. Now, I definitely didn't invent this word, but you should provide abundant edutainment. Okay? That means you should be educating them and entertaining them in every single email. I remember somebody asked me a question once. They said, Omar, how long should my video be? And I said, as long as it has to be. And they said, well, I don't want to bore people. And I'm like, really? You don't want to bore people? You think it's time that bores people? Because that's not what bores people. I watched a movie called Avatar. It was like 3.5 hours long, and I was like glued to the screen every single minute, right? I've read books that were super, super long, and I was glued to every single page. It's not the length. It's the quality of the content. So you really, really need to make sure that you're educating and entertaining them. If you're entertaining them, they are going to want to open your emails. What's the best way to entertain? Make them laugh. Make them remember something that's funny. Relate to something. Anchor to something that's funny. Something in current events. Use clever subject lines and use topics that are going to interweave with things that they're familiar with that might make them laugh. So you want to educate them while you entertain them at the same time. Think of the college professor or the high school teacher that you enjoyed the most. There were usually people that were really fun to be around. They were just good educators because they were entertaining, they made you laugh, and they made you enjoy going to the class. When someone is boring and they're like, okay, so turn to page 232 today, and we're going to be talking about anaerobic metabolism. And, you're going to fall asleep in that class, right? Nobody wants that. So the same exact thing holds true when it comes with when it comes to your list and the people that are reading your emails. If you are not, being fun, if you're not engaging them, then you know what? They're just going to bounce. If you bore them or you come off that's the other thing, don't come off too strong. So they just opted into your list yesterday, and then all of a sudden today, your first email, you're like, hey, buy this, hey, buy that, and if you didn't like this, you should buy this, and hey, go over here and subscribe to this list, and be on that, and look at all the 30 products that I have, and look at my entire portfolio. Oh, God, it's like, who the hell wants to be part of that? You're being that pushy, annoying salesman, and nobody wants to be part of that. You got to play it cool, man. You got to, take your time with people. You got to be strategic and be genuine and build that trust over time. Now, depending on the autoresponder that you use, there's going to be different ways that you could do this. Aweber allows you to set automation rules, okay? And this actually allows you to unsubscribe somebody from one list when they subscribe to another, okay? So, one of your goals in every email that you send is to have some sort of a call to action. So you want to make sure that when that person in this follow-up sequence takes action, you actually remove them from this follow-up sequence and put them on the new sequence that pertains to the action that they just took. For example, if maybe I had invested $1 in you just to get some sort of a tripwire, some sort of a really high value offer that was like a no-brainer, but I declined to take the upsell. So I didn't want to spend $97 on you. I didn't even take the downsell of $47 on you. I only bought the $1 offer. That's all I trusted to give you right now. But then maybe you build a relationship with me, and by email number 3 or number 4, I'm excited, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to buy this other thing. I'm going to get this Mac Daddy package thing that he offers. I'm going to pay the $97. Well, you know what? Now you've got to take me off that $1 list, and you've got to put me on the $97 list, because the $1 list it's got a sequence of emails that are automatically going out that are trying to get me to buy that $97 thing, but I already bought the $97 thing, so it would be stupid, and you would turn me off and get me to unsubscribe, maybe even refund if you keep telling me to buy the $97 thing, but I already bought the $97 thing. So that just kind of tells me, oh man, you're you don't know who I am, you don't care who I am, and you just don't want to, So again, it's important that you use automation rules. That's what Aweber calls it. Depending on the autoresponder service that you use, they might call it something else. But every reputable autoresponder company out there allows you to move people and to segment people from one list to another, so that you can you can market to them specifically based on the list that they're on and based on what they opted in for. Okay. Let's talk about mechanics now. I want to talk a little bit about email mechanics, the actual factors that play a role in deliverability and in getting clicks, and we're actually talking about the technical factors primarily. So let's talk about engagement. A lot of people worry about clicks, and they're like, oh, if I don't get enough clicks, I'm not getting. Let's talk about engagement. Engagement is a score. It's actually, the engagement score is actually something that every email client, companies like Gmail, Hotmail, AOL, Yahoo, they actually give your email address an engagement score. So email address being the from email, right? So inside of your autoresponder, you can designate what that from email address is going to be. So let's say yours is john@zyx.com. That's where that email is coming from, right? So what happens is the email clients give that email address an engagement score. And the way that they score you, it has to do with your open rate, your scroll rate, your bounce rate, and your complaint rate. It has nothing to do with your click rate. So what happens is they keep a record of how many opens emails from john@zyx.com get. They also keep track of how many people vertically scroll. So not only did they open, but are they scrolling to read the email? They also check bounce rate. How many emails are going to bad email addresses? They also check complaint rate. How many people are actually clicking that spam button? These are the things that determine the engagement score that email client is going to give your address. So you should focus on improving these things, making these things as best as possible within every single email that you send. Because the better these rates are for you, the more likely that your emails are going to end up inside of the inbox. Okay, these things are very, very important because engagement is what gets you in the inbox. Another thing that's very important, keep a clean list. Aweber and most reputable autoresponder services allow you to remove your bounces and people that don't open. You can actually go into your Aweber, you can go to your list management and select a drop down, and you can select people that haven't opened in a certain amount of time. So that people that haven't opened in 3 months, people that haven't opened in 6 months, 3 to 6 months. I mean, look, if you've been emailing somebody every day for 6 months and they haven't opened an email in 6 months, chances are they're filtering you, they're putting you in some folder, they're just, you don't need to have them on your list. Just get them out of there. Just take them out because it's hurting your engagement rate. That's actually preventing other people that are engaging with you from seeing emails. This is why you're landing in some of those spam folders. Okay, so it's important that you keep a clean list. Here's something that so many people screw up, and in this day and age where we're at right now, at the time that I'm recording this, you need to be formatting your emails for mobile devices. The reality is that right now at this point in time, it's probably more by the time you're watching this, more than half of your subscribers are reading your email on a mobile phone or some sort of tablet, an iPad, an iPhone, but more than likely on a smartphone, okay? Something like 41% or something like that read your emails on a smartphone before they get out of bed in the morning. This is just a fact. So, you know, if your email looks like crap on mobile, if you're not taking into consideration what your email looks like on mobile, you are screwing up. And so many people do this. They're like, oh man, that's too hard. I'm not even going to bother. What's hard about it? Send a test email, look at your phone, and see what it looks like. If it looks like shit, retype it. Do it again. Make sure that your lines are all formatted nicely. Sometimes you made the lines too long. Sometimes you made it too, you might be using a template that doesn't format right. Maybe you have an image and it's half cut off. Just take the time to open your email, and then what ends up happening when you do it a few times, you start getting the hang of it. And you're like, oh, okay, I can't type further than this. I got to keep it to this amount of characters. And you might even create a template for yourself to start with, to always work from, so that your emails look good good on mobile. Your emails have to look good on mobiles. You should always test your email on your phone first before you hit that broadcast send button. And since we're talking about follow-up emails here, that means that every single email that you're going to be sending in an autoresponder sequence, you should first test by sending it to yourself from your autoresponder. Subscribe to the list, send it to yourself, do it as a test broadcast to a list that only you're a member of. Whatever you've got to do, you need to test your email on mobile devices. You'll be amazed at what you discover. And if you're not doing this, the majority of the people reading your emails are not seeing what you want them to see. They're seeing some messed up, jarbled up email, unformatted. They're closing it. And you're wondering, well, why am I not getting any clicks? Well, why are people like closing my emails? Well, why am I not getting in the inbox? This is why. And not any one of these things is going to prevent you from getting into the inbox, but every little bit counts. Every single one of these mechanics that I'm talking about is a contributing factor at whether or not your follow-up emails are getting into the inbox. And we already established that follow-up emails are what makes us autopilot money down the line. That's what keeps the money coming in. So these things are very, very important. Now, it's all about your subject line and the anchor text. Now, why did I do, I'm going to talk a little bit about subject lines when we talk into the selling part of things, but why did I mention this in the mechanics slide? Well, because both the subject line and your first, what I call the anchor text, right? So the anchor subject, the anchor line, it's not necessarily like a link anchor text, but your anchor line or the first line of your email. Both the subject line and the anchor line are visible to an unopened viewer. In Gmail, Gmail shows you the name of the sender, the address that they're sending from, and then it shows you the subject line, and it starts showing the first sentence of the email. So that means that somebody that hasn't even read your email yet can read, they can see the very first thing that you're saying in that email. So even if you have a clever headline like, "Hey dude, open this up," if the first line on your email is click display images to see this on your you're already screaming, "Hey, this is a marketing message. Hey, this is a marketing message." Because, I mean, think about it. Your buddy doesn't send you emails that start with to display images, always display images from us or something like that. You got to be mindful of what is the first line in your email. Does it say, "Hey, dear so-and-so, check this out," or whatever? Or are you using some kind of a pre-formatted template that's showing some anchor text or some, an anchor statement that's actually hurting your open rate? Okay, so this is why it was important to put this in the mechanics slide, because, you need to make sure that your subject line and that first sentence in the email are engaging and compelling. I like to use impulse factors in my subject line as well as in the first line. We're going to talk a little bit about impulse factors in the sales slide a little bit down the line here. Now, let's talk about the time of day that you're mailing. This is also an important mechanic because a lot of email autoresponder services allow you to customize the time of day that an email is going to go out based on the geocode of the subscriber. So you can actually say, well, listen, I want all my emails to go out at 6 a.m. Eastern time because I'm in Eastern time, or I want them to go out at 6 a.m. computer time of the recipient. So meaning if that recipient is in, freaking Australia, they're going to get it at 6 a.m. their time. And somebody that's in Eastern United States time, they're going to get it. So you should consider this, okay, the time of day that you're mailing, because that has a big effect on whether people are going to open it or whether they're not. You always want to try to be at the top of their inbox, number one. So if you're emailing in the if you're emailing, let's say 8 a.m. in the morning, chances are that, everybody that's actually emailed before you, while the recipient was sleeping, they're actually going to be underneath you. Now, if you emailed at 1 a.m. in the morning, and I open your email, chances are that your email is buried. I've got another 30 emails on top of yours from people that emailed after 1 a.m. So you got to consider, are you emailing while people are sleeping? Another thing is people like to purge their emails in the morning. Okay, so they actually reach over to their nightstand, they grab their cell phone, and we know this data, it tells us that at the time you're watching this video, over 41% of people that are reading email, they're checking it in the morning before they get out of bed from their smartphone. I'm guilty of this. I do this myself. And they're trying to clear all their emails before they head into the office. They try to clear their emails. Maybe you do this yourself. So what happens is, if you're in that morning purge, you might end up getting deleted. So you might be better hitting them at lunchtime. You might be better hitting them at quitting time, right? 5 p.m. their time. So you've got to be mindful of the time that people are going to be getting their email. And you want to try to send your message so that they're going to be, you're going to time it so that they're going to be receiving it or looking at it at an optimal time for them. What is a good time for them to actually take the time to read it? Chances are somebody laying in bed in the morning is not going to start entering your funnel knowing that they've got 20 minutes to take a shower and get in the car and feed the kids and get to work and do all that. They're not going to start going through your sales funnel while they're laying in bed from their phone. So these are important things that you need to consider. And time is a mechanic that can work against you, okay? Don't use too many links. Here's another mechanical thing that, a lot of people like loading up their email with a bunch of links and stuff. I like to keep it down to 3 links within an email. Too many links, and again, it just seems like a spammy email, right? Your buddy isn't sending you an email with 35 links in it. It's just not going to happen. So I like to keep it down to 3 links. I've used as many as 5, especially if I'm kind of interchanging. So I might have 3 text links and maybe I have 2 image links. What I do is I try to use different call to actions right before each of the links. And something that works for me, I've noticed that I get a higher click-through rate when I take the subject line and I make it the anchor text for the link. So that tends to work really well for me. But the call to action right before each of the links is a little bit different, and I try to touch on a different hotspot. So if one of them didn't get them, the other one will. The other thing is images. Images is something that you can try, make them clickable, and you can test this and see which images work. As a matter of fact, now you can even use animated images in emails. You can use GIFs, and that works very well also. Know your numbers. A lot of people, myself included, when I started, I wouldn't pay as much attention to this as I should. You should always know your numbers. Know what your click-through rate is. Know what emails are working. Go back and review what subject line worked really, really well, what subject line didn't work really, really well, and test derivatives of those subject lines. If you have something that worked really, really well, go test it. Go use it again. Maybe test a different variation of it. If you have a subject line that worked terrible, then don't use that one again and stay away from things like that subject line. One of the things that stays with me, I read an article once about the Obama campaign. When Obama got elected, the team that was doing his email marketing, they did hundreds of split tests on subject lines, and they found that the less official sounding one, so those were the ones that got the most clicks and the most opens. So they actually tested a series of them, and they discovered that the word "hey" in the subject line, just that word "hey," was what got the most opens. So not something like important message for presidential candidate Barack Obama. That didn't get in. So you would think, wow, how a nice official sounding headline didn't get clicks. No, what got more clicks was the word "hey." Who would have thunk it, right? Unless you test these kind of things, you don't really know. So it's important that you test, know your numbers so that you don't commit the same mistake, and so that you can maximize stuff that works really well. I want to talk about the email chain breakpoints. Now, we spoke a little bit about this before, but I'm going to go into a lot more detail here because you need to understand all the different breakpoints that there are. A breakpoint is the opportunity for the communication to break with the prospect, okay? And it starts in getting to the inbox, okay? So if you can't get into the inbox, they don't even start to see the chain. So they didn't even get to be part of the chain at all. So you got to focus on those mechanics and those things that I was talking about in the prior slide to make sure that you're getting into the inbox. Because if you're getting into the spam folder, it's all bets are off. Chances are you're never going to get read. You're not going to make, you have to send millions and millions of emails on a daily basis to have success in the spam folder because nobody's going in there and checking spam. Most people, they go in, they delete spam. Why? Because it's spam. If my email client, which I trust, calls it spam, then it's going to be spam. I only go in there if somebody says to me, "Hey, did you get that email I sent you?" And I say, "No, I don't remember it." Then I go in, I check my spam. That's the only time I do that. So the average person isn't going and checking the spam. The very first part of the email chain, before the email chain even starts, is getting into the email inbox. There are breakpoints in this chain. Every single link in the chain should be designed to lead them through to the next part of the chain. So getting into the inbox, the mechanics of the way I structure my email, the composition of the email, the way that I make it look, the words that I use in the subject line, the anchor text that I use, all of that stuff, the amount of links, whether I'm using images, whether I've been focusing on my engagement rate, all of that mechanic stuff, the nuts and bolts stuff that I do in my autoresponder, that's just to get into the inbox. Then the email chain begins, and it begins with the subject line. The subject line is what gets them to open. Look, if you can't get them to open, all bets are off. Nothing's going to happen because they're not going to read your text. They're not going to read your email. They're not going to click the link. They're not going to get to their sales page. They're not going to buy your stuff. They're not going to opt in. They're not going to get into your funnel. It all starts in the subject line. If your subject line sucks, you're not going to do well. You got to create subject lines that are designed to open. And you know what works really well? Suspenseful subject lines. That tends to work the best for me because the user actually opens the email to relieve their suspense. They're like, oh, okay. So I create email subjects that are like, hey, you're not going to believe what happened, ... It's suspenseful. You can create email like, hey, I wrote an email yesterday to my friend and you won't believe what happened next. Things like this, they're suspenseful. They make people open to continue reading the story. But remember, the story, the first line of the story, they can see that before they open the email. So even that first line is going to be suspenseful too. So I use suspenseful subject lines. And then check this out. Here's another thing. I actually learned this one from Ryan Dice. A cool trick that you could use to boost your opens is to use little symbols in the subject line. You can go to, you can get all kinds of Unicode symbols. You can Google it. This is a site that Ryan actually recommended. It's emailstuff.org/glyph/search. And you can actually go and type in any kind of little character like arrow, circle, like any little symbol. You type in the name of it and it'll give you the code. They have thousands of them, and you can copy the code to put in the subject line that's going to make that little symbol appear. So you can have little arrows, little stars, all kinds of little Unicode symbols in your subject line. Here's what happens there. It makes them stand out from all of the other emails. So if you are combining the things you're learning here, you know that the morning emails that you're sending are probably going to be sandwiched in between a whole bunch of emails from other marketers. Good idea is if you're sending an email overnight, that might be the one that you use a Unicode symbol in, right? So that it can stand out from all the other emails. But again, keep in mind that it's likely that the recipient is reading this email in the morning when they're rushing to get ready for work and stuff like that. So again, a lot of this has to do with your specific audience. If you're catering to baby boomers, retirees, people that are, that don't work, then that doesn't apply to that particular list. So a lot of it is this stuff is relative to the type of marketing, the product that you're promoting, and the audience that you're promoting to. But generally speaking, you're not going to go wrong when you're using suspenseful subject lines. You can do a whole lot of research online. There's a lot of products about subject lines. There's a lot of people that have done blog posts about subject lines. There's a lot of different things that you can do to come up with really good subject lines. But when you use suspense, and we're going to talk a little bit about selling features, we're going to talk in another slide, we're going to talk a little bit about impulse factors. I use impulse factors a lot in my subject lines. You want to create quick, short, direct, suspenseful, concise subject lines that get people to open, because you know what? If they don't open, all bets are off. Everything's done. The chain breaks right there before they even got to read anything. So the greeting or the anchor statement. Now, don't confuse. I use the word anchor because it's the very first thing that glues them to the email. But don't confuse it with anchor text that you might be using. So the phrase anchor text is often used when referring to an email, a link in an email. You use anchor text to hide the link. So you just link the text that you're using. So it might say click here instead of the ugly affiliate link that you want them to click, right? So that's called anchor text. That's not what I'm referring to here. I'm referring to the very first sentence of your email, the greeting, basically. That actually gets them to read the copy that follows. So just so you follow the chain here, right? All the mechanics that you did were focused on getting into the inbox. The subject line, once you're in the inbox, is focused on getting them to open the email. The anchor text is focused on getting them to, the anchor statement rather, is focused on getting them to read the copy. Right? The body copy of the email. You want to start off with some sort of a bold, compelling statement. A bold statement that creates a need to finish reading the body of your email. It's a bold statement that it requires justification, that requires them to follow through and keep reading. So usually all my bold, outlandish statements are going to be right in the beginning, and I might have a suspenseful type of subject line that says, "Hey, I went to the movies yesterday, and you're never going to believe what happened." Then my anchor statement might sound like, "Hey, John, this is going to probably sound like a story that's made up, but I promise you it isn't." Right, so again, that kind of just followed up, but it continued building the urgency and the suspense, right? And now I'll start saying what happened while I was at the movie theater. I don't just jump right into it. So again, we're building as we go. We're getting every part of this chain gets them to the next part of the chain. That is the goal of every single part. So remember that the greeting or that anchor statement is going to be visible to an unopened email. So it has to be equally as suspenseful. So you don't want to do something where you say, "You're never going to guess how many people I have on my subscriber list. Hi, Omar. The number is 3,232. Because they can see that without opening the email. So you just asked a question and answered it without them having to open, right? And the whole idea is to try to get them to open, okay? So now the next point in the break in the chain, the next break point in the chain is obviously the copy, the body copy. You're going to type some compelling story, and it's going to contain a call to action. So now, the call to action is what actually gets them to click on the link, okay? So the call to action, you got to tell them what to do. You got to tell them what to do. I think a lot of people, especially when they're new to marketing, new to sales, they're afraid. They beat around the bush. They're afraid to ask for the sale. You got to tell them what to do, man. You got to train your people that, hey, when I send you an email, it's going to be cool, it's going to be suspenseful, it's going to be funny, and it's going to require you to do something. And that something is going to mean clicking on this, and going over there and doing this, X, Y. You got to train them. Even in value emails that are just providing content, you want to call to action. So, yeah, it's providing, Omar, well, how can you just provide content, so I might be providing content and say, hey, by the way, there's a free video about this, click here, and then send them to YouTube. Or, hey, I also have got this XYZ, boom, click here, and then send them somewhere else. I'm training them that every time they open an email from me, they're going to be required to click something and go somewhere, okay? So even on the emails where I'm not selling stuff, I'm still calling them to act, okay? You want to tell them what to do next in order to complete that mental process that you started in the subject line. So, for example, if I said something like, hey, I went to the movies yesterday and you're not going to believe what happened, and then I went through talking about what happened, that story about the movies is going to lead to a call to action, right? So this is what happened. Click here to see what happened after the movie. Boom, you know what I mean? So it's kind of completing the story for them. That's how you're going to get people to actually click. Notice that every single part of this chain is designed to lead them to the next part in the chain. One of the things that I do is I use multiple links. I use at least 3 or 4 links. I don't ever use more than 5. But another thing that you can use as part of your call to actions, you can use images. I've seen a lot of cool stuff done with images. You just got to be careful not to overdo it with images. You don't want to come off as tricky. You don't want to come off as somebody that's trying to trick people into clicking. I've seen it where people put like an image of a video player with like a big video button. You know, when people see a video button, they're going to click it. So it's almost like, oh, wait, I clicked this, now I'm on this website. I didn't mean to go to this website. So, you know, that stuff might work. Now, if you tell them in the copy, if you say, hey, look, I've got this really cool video. If you click this image below, it's going to take you to the video. If you word it like that, they're not going to feel like they were tricked, right? So you don't want to come off like that pushy, tricky car salesman, right? And sometimes just letting them know what you're about to do can alleviate that whole thing and put you in the nice column instead of the naughty column in the back of their head. Okay, so we use multiple links. I like using animation and stuff. I've done that a couple times. It works very, very well. I just don't like to overdo it because, like anything else, people will become desensitized to it. It just won't work well anymore. You know, I've seen a lot of clever ways for people to get to. You know, sometimes you'll put an image that has 3 things, and it'll be like, hey, pick your favorite color. And then you've got an image that's a blue, a red, and a green. All 3 of them are linking to the same exact thing. You know what I mean? So they think they're selecting an item, but they're not. They're linking to the same page. Now, this works as long as the content on the target page is relevant. And you're saying, oh, wow, that's a great color, as a matter of fact. And now but you don't say, oh, it's great, I'm so glad you picked green, because that person might have clicked blue. You got to make sure that it's more generic copy. So again, These are little tricks and that'll help you get your clicks through. But again, you've got to be strategic. You got to make sure you follow up properly. You don't want to piss anybody off. You don't want to make them feel like they were just tricked into clicking. Remember, people love to buy, but they hate to feel sold. They don't want to feel like, oh God, I was just used. He just tricked me into clicking. You don't want to make people feel that way. You want to find a balance between selling and providing value in your emails, okay? So you've got to sell. Remember what I said earlier, the purpose of marketing, the purpose of sending emails to people is to get them to buy something. You know, that is the reason you've been building this list. It's so that they eventually buy something from you and so that you make money. I would love to say that, yeah, I got into business because I wanted to become friends with you, but the reality is that, you know, I got into business because I wanted to make money. The fact that we can become friends in the process is awesome, but the main purpose of you building an email list is to make money. So you can't just be about value, and never sell. You've got to provide value and you've got to sell. You've got to find that balance. But the one thing that is important is that you train them to follow instructions within every single email that you send. You should be training your reader to follow your instructions. They've got to know that they have to do what you say when they see that little blue link, that they have to click in it. So, if you've been following me for any time, you know that I'm big on selling tactics. I'm big on selling on sales pages, selling through video, and now I'm going to talk to you about selling through email. The sales principles hold true regardless of the item you're selling and regardless of the method that you're using to sell. I've used the 5 steps to a sale to sell face-to-face, to sell over the phone, to sell in print, to sell in more ways than you can possibly imagine. So I use it on a daily basis to sell through email. A lot of people get hung up on, oh my goodness, oh, what do I type? And you stare at this blank screen not knowing where to start selling, where to start typing your email. Well, here's 5 simple steps that you can follow. And usually you can even write these 5 things down and then just fill in the spaces in between in order to come up with a basic outline for your email. And once you do this a few times, you're going to get really, really good at it. Okay? Here's the 5 steps to a sale. The introduction. Who, what, why. That's what people need to know. Who are you? What do you want? And why are you contacting me? That's what you want to get across in the introduction. Naturally, you don't have to have a big, elaborate introduction in every single follow-up email, right? But you definitely need to establish the who, what, why, right? So if they already know you, the who's fine, but the what and the why are important for you to come across in the introduction. Then you want to tell a short story. The key with the short story is that you keep it short and sweet. You got to kiss the short story. A lot of people take a short story and they just regurgitate like just the same thing over and over and over again, and it's not a short story anymore. You got to make it concise. Remember, you're selling an email, and the chances are that your email is sandwiched between 2 more important emails in that person's life. Your email might be in between an email from their boss that they need to read, that could be giving them their work schedule for tomorrow, and between an email from grandma with the pictures from last week's barbecue. So both of those emails are more important, and here you are in the middle of those 2 important people in that person's life, much more important to you than you at this point, and here you are telling them a story. You got to get to the point. It's got to be compelling. It's got to be engaging. It's got to be suspenseful. You got to get to the point. It's got to be a short story. Now, eventually, in that short story, you've got to present them with whatever it is you're offering, okay? So if the story was eventually to teach them something, if the story was to get them to do something, a call to action, which we're going to get into in a second here, you've got to eventually get to the presentation. And sometimes, you know, the way to get right into the presentation, go from the short story, is by simply saying, which brings me to. Okay, those 3 words, which brings me to, actually 4 words, which brings me to, right? So if I'm telling a story and I've been talking for a little bit and I've been trying to warm them up, I can then come to a certain point that says, you know, that brings me to, and then the reason why you're emailing them, the actual presentation, what you're going to, that brings me to this video that I wanted to tell you about, because it covers all the things that you shouldn't do when you're exiting a movie theater, right? Or something like that, right? Whatever that's going to be, you're going to present the item in question. Then you're going to close them. The close is where you actually tell them what they need to do next. Okay, so what I want you to do right now is click on this link so that you can go and watch that email, that video. You're going to be taken to a page where there's going to be a big video screen. You got to click the play button, or the video will automatically start playing. Make sure the volume is up on your screen, and then be sure to watch the entire thing. So once again, I want to thank you for reading this email, and I look forward to seeing you in my next email. Remember that you're going to be hearing from me again tomorrow, and pretty soon I've got an important announcement for you. Blah, blah, blah. That's the rehash. The rehash is where you kind of follow up on what you mentioned in the actual email, and kind of give them a little bit of a lead into what you're going to be doing next. Okay, so introduction, short story, presentation, close, and rehash. A great little 5-step system for you to keep in mind when you're sitting down and you got writer's block and you're like, holy cow, how the hell am I going to write these emails? What am I going to do? What am I going to talk about? Introduction, short story, presentation, close, and rehash. Now, those are the steps to make a sale. The people that master selling, the people that become really, really, really good at selling, are the ones that master the impulse factors. Let me make sure that you understand something. Nobody plans to buy your products online. Like, nobody sits down and has a family meeting. Nobody goes to bed at night and says, honey, I really hope that tomorrow I receive an email from a marketer and that he really gets me excited and that I decide to buy an ebook. They don't. It's an impulse buy. The majority of this stuff that we're selling online, especially in the internet marketing arena, the make money online niche, the majority of digital products that are being sold online, they're impulse buys. The person isn't having a family meeting before they decide to make that purchase. What's getting them to buy is the excitement that they feel from the sales page, from the website, from the sales video. And the way that you get people excited, the way that you get people impulsed and ready to buy is using the 4 impulse factors. And they are fear of loss, indifference, greed, and sense of urgency. I remember them with the acronym FIGS, F-I-G-S. Fear of loss. Letting people know that if they don't do it right now, they're going to miss out. People are afraid to miss out, okay? You got to let them know, hey, we've only got a certain amount of these. You know what? Right now is the time to get this. If you don't get it now, you're probably going to miss out because we're going to close down at midnight or something like that. Indifference. Letting them know that, yeah, you want them to buy, but you're indifferent about it. Hey, I would love to have you on board, but the reality is that it's not for everybody. You know, sometimes, you might not be interested in this. Maybe it's not the right time in your life. You know, hey, no big deal. I understand, but I got to tell you this. A lot of people are taking action. As a matter of fact, my smartest subscribers have already jumped on this. You see what I did there? I used indifference. I made them feel like, hey, look, you know, I would love for you to be part of this. I got a lot of people that are already in here. I'm using a little bit of greed, right? Because we want what others have. So I'm mentioning smart marketers, almost making them feel like, oh, wait, I'm a smart person. I want to be part of that. So I'm using a little bit of greed mixed with indifference in that statement, right? So fear of loss, indifference, and greed. And then sense of urgency. A lot of people confuse urgency with fear of loss, okay? Fear of loss means they are afraid that they are going to miss out, okay? So with fear of loss, they're afraid of losing the item. With urgency is they're afraid of running out of time. And there's a difference, okay? So, for example, if I let's say was at a home shopping channel, right? I might see on one corner of the screen. As a matter of fact, in most home shopping networks, you might have seen me do the WFIGS presentation in My Unfair Advantage. But what I do is I actually split the screen into 4 corners to demonstrate how home shopping channels, TV channels that sell products, I demonstrate how they use the impulse factors by splitting that screen into 4 spaces. And what you'll find is they'll put fear of loss on one corner and sense of urgency on the other. Fear of loss shows the amount of items remaining, and it says, oh my god, well, there's only 50 left, and look, now it's 49. Oh my god, now we're down to 22. Oh my goodness, look, we're running out of items. Fear of loss. You're afraid that you're going to lose out because they're going to run out of items. Sense of urgency is on the other corner. That's a countdown timer. That means I'm going to run out of time. So it doesn't matter how many items are left. I may or may not lose the item, but I might run out of time if I don't take action now. So those 2 things are completely different. Fear of losing the item, fear of running out of time. They're 2 different things, and a lot of people mix them up. Sometimes people say, yeah, I say, did you put urgency on your page? Yeah, I told them that I'm only giving away 10. No, that's not urgency, dude. Urgency is a countdown timer ticking away in milliseconds, making them feel like, oh my God, I'm getting nervous here, I'm running out of time, right? So when you combine the 4 factors of impulse, when you interweave them with the 5 steps to a sale in a thorough follow-up email that you've set up to keep in mind all of the breakpoints in that chain, man, you are really going to have a powerful follow-up email sequence. Okay, so let's talk about mapping out that email sequence. Now, the important thing is for you to understand that you're going to be sending emails every day, and what I'm going to share with you here are some ideas, not some subject lines, okay? So don't think that these are subject lines, okay? So maybe on day 1, I'm going to send some sort of an email saying, hey, I'm so happy to have you. I don't know what the subject line is that you might use. You know, create one, obviously, that's suspenseful, that gets them to open, but this is going to be what they receive on day 1. It's basically you saying, hey, I'm happy to have you, welcoming them aboard, blah, blah, blah. Okay, day 2, maybe you want to now get them in and say, hey, did you see, and then in the body copy, refer to something that you gave them yesterday. So when you told them, hey, I'm happy to have you, by the way, here's an extra link to that item that you downloaded that you asked for. You should have been taken to it already, but here's a link so that you could save this email in case you ever want to refer to it. If you didn't bookmark it, here it is, blah, blah, blah. Maybe now on day 2, I'm referring to part of that. So I'm saying, hey, did you see in that ebook that I gave you yesterday on page 3 how I talked about XYZ? Wasn't it crazy how when you go to a movie theater and you leave that people forget to drop the 3D glasses into the bin and whatever. I'm pulling that out of my, I'm just trying to make it up right now as I go along, but another one on day 3. Hey, look what I found. Since I know that you're interested about this and that and the other thing, I was actually surfing the internet and I found this awesome thing. Let me show it to you. Blah, blah, blah. And again, this is just an idea of things that you can do. Day 1, day 2, day 3. Day 4, hey, you're going to love this. Remember yesterday I told you about this video? Well, look, I actually put it into a play. I actually tested it and look what I found. Okay, so again, and now we're maybe start appealing to them. We're starting to build trust, right? We're starting to build trust over time. We're being friendly. We're giving them calls to action. We're giving them something to click every single email. Maybe now on day 5, I've got the can I help you blank? Can I help you do this? Can I help you find the movie theater to go to in your area? Can I help you do whatever they're interested in? That could be an idea. Day 6, hey, check this thing out. You know what I mean? Again, you're trying to do what you were doing in day 4, and you're continuing to get them to click and maybe to see something. You might be promoting a product offer, or you might be, again, trying to bring them back to the sales page or to the next upsell or whatever part in your chain, in your funnel, they ended up, that they didn't take action. You want to take them to that next step. You want to constantly be moving them over to the next level. Here's one that works really, really well. I usually do it a little bit later in the sequence. An important announcement. Usually any kind of important announcement, subject line gets a lot of opens, and this is going to determine, it's going to be a determining factor. It's got to really come off as an important announcement. Maybe a huge savings or a special or something. Maybe if they're already at this point, maybe you've already been telling them for 4 days that they should go back and buy that upsell, back and buy that upsell, back and buy that. Maybe day 7 could be, hey, important announcement. Guess what? For today only, we're doing a 50% off sale on that product that you were interested in. I know you were interested because you had looked at it in the past. Well, we're doing a 50. Maybe you could send them to a specific discount page on that particular day to try to get them to move over, and maybe you'll learn that maybe the price was the issue. Day 8 might be amazing results. You can give them some sort of results that you have, because remember, if they're still on this sequence, it's because they didn't take action yet. So they haven't taken action even if the price was lower. You still haven't built enough trust. So now we're going to start giving them case studies, results, things that have happened in the past to people that did take action, that did do the things that they were supposed to do in day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Day 9, hey, we're waiting for you. Hey, what's going on? Let's give them some examples of some of the people, some social proof, some, we start talking in we's and groups. We start talking about, to start putting the greed factor into things. Day 10, hey, have you met so-and-so? Introduce them to an expert, somebody that they might know, borrow some credibility from someone else. We're trying to figure out why haven't we already by day 10 built enough trust with this person? Why have they yet to invest money in us? So let's try to borrow some credibility from somebody that they might know. Maybe they don't know me enough. Maybe they are on somebody else's list. Maybe, so again, and these are just examples. These are just ideas. These are not subject lines. These are just some ways that you can consider mapping out out your own email sequences so that you're getting people through. And this is only 10 days. You could have, 20 days, 30 days, 40 days. An email sequence is really perpetual. It's as long as they as long as they're on the sequence, you're going to keep trying to sell them. You're going to keep trying to sell them, keep trying to get them to buy something, keep trying to get them to that very next level that you didn't have enough trust with, in the beginning. You want to build enough trust through your email sequence, through following up, that's going to get them to actually take action. Okay, so in conclusion, if you want to really plan your follow-up sequence, as you can see in this video, I've gone over a lot of things that really play a significant role. We talked about mechanics and just getting into the inbox. We talked about all the possible breakpoints where you might be losing people with your follow-up messages. And we talked just now about how important it is to plan what you're saying and to make sure that you're creating and crafting an email message that's selling them using the 5 steps of a sale, using impulse factors, and actually following a strategic process, planning that sequence out in a matter of days so that each email builds on the one before. Put yourself in that person's shoes. Don't just throw spaghetti on the wall and hope that some of it sticks. Like, the worst thing you can do with your follow-up sequence is just load it up with a whole bunch of swipe emails from products. You get somebody on your list, and then all of a sudden you think like, oh, well, okay, now I need to come up with 10 promotional emails. Let me go find 10 products on JVZoo. Let me go to the JV pages. Let me copy all their emails and just drop them in there. You're just throwing spaghetti on the wall. You're just hoping somebody buys something. You really don't care, and it shows. And what's going to happen is you're going to have a whole bunch of unsubscribes. You're not going to build the trust. You're not going to be moving people in your funnel from one level to the next level. An effective email follow-up sequence must be well thought out. You have to put some thought into this thing. You have to actually put yourself in the shoes of the subscriber, and you got to address their needs and their concerns at that stage in their purchase process. So you got to think, okay, well, this guy only invested $1 in me. All right, and it's been 3 days since he did that, and he still hasn't invested the next step. He still hasn't taken it. What's stopping them? What could be the problem? What actually what actually is the cause of them only going this far? You have to get in their head. You have to think like them. You have to actually be strategic about this. An autoresponder sequence is really never finished. Okay, it's the prospect just moves from one sequence to another. So if they got to email 4 and they finally took the action you wanted them to take in email number 4, well, now they move into email 1 of the next sequence, and they're always moving from sequence to sequence. One of the mantras that I teach is your order is never complete. You always want to be creating new and exciting offers for your people to buy. Move them from one sequence to the next sequence. Always get them to buy more stuff. The number one most important thing you have to do once you find a buyer is sell. Keep selling. The worst thing that you could do once you have a buyer is stop selling. Let me tell you something. Getting traffic is not easy. Finding traffic and actually driving traffic and paying for traffic and all that, finding buyers is not easy. So once you have one, you should sell to them. Keep your finger on the pulse of your list. Know your numbers. I talked to you about that earlier. Test everything. Always be testing. You're going to get better and better and better at emailing. And if you have email broadcasts that worked really well, go back and insert them into your email sequence, into your follow-ups. You should really be testing different email subject lines, different body copies, different anchor text. And you've got something that you got really good results with, then go insert it in your follow-up sequence. Keep your finger on the pulse of your list. Know what's going on. Keep building your list. It's your number one most important asset for your business. Test everything. Always be testing. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.